If you're here, I'm guessing you've invested in a prop tech platform, you had high hopes, and now you're stuck. You're waiting for answers, feeling totally powerless, and those promised returns? Nowhere in sight. Well, today, we're going to change that. We're going to take all that frustration and turn it into a real, concrete plan of action. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's a direct quote from an investor, probably someone in the exact same boat as you. And it just hits the nail on the head, right? It's not just the wait, it's the constant stream of excuses that leaves you hanging. I want you to know you are definitely not alone in this. So let's really break down what's happening. This is the investor's dilemma. Platforms like SmartOwner came along with this amazing promise to democratize real estate investing. But for a whole lot of people, that dream has turned into a nightmare of endless delays and, honestly, radio silence. And the complaints, they all start to sound the same, don't they? Lock-in periods that just keep getting stretched. Those 15-20% returns that have completely disappeared. A real feeling of being misled. And look, the scariest one of all, the very real risk of losing everything if the company just goes belly up. Seeing it all laid out like this proves it. Your problem isn't just your problem. It's a pattern. And seeing that pattern is the first step to fighting back. This is where we need to zoom out for a second. Because while this feels super personal, what you're going through actually fits a playbook that we have seen before. In fact, it looks a whole lot like some of the biggest corporate fraud scandals this country has ever seen. The mechanics are just eerily similar. I mean, just look at this. The parallels are pretty shocking. On the one hand, you've got delayed payouts, funds that might have been diverted, and misrepresentation. And on the other, the exact same playbook from huge scandals like IL&FS and DHFL, massive defaults, siphoning funds, and outright fraud. The names are different, but the blueprint is identical. And you know what? This comparison, that's your leverage. And if you want to understand the stakes, just look at this number, 91,000 crore. Let that sink in for a second. That's how big the IL&FS collapse was. And it was triggered by the exact kind of mismanagement and lack of transparency that people are now screaming about in the prop tech world. And here's another one, 31,000 crore siphoned out of DHFL. What does this prove? It proves that when the evidence is strong enough, regulators absolutely have the power and the precedent to come down like a ton of bricks. This history is exactly why the roadmap we're about to lay out can actually work. So who are these regulators? Let's quickly clear this up. First, you've got the RoC, the Registrar of Companies. Think of them as your first stop, the ground floor. They work under the MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The MCA is the one with the real power to order a deep dive investigation. And if things get really serious, the MCA calls in the elite squad, the SFIO, or the Serious Fraud Investigation Office. Those are the three names you need to know. Okay, we know the problem, we know who the players are. Now for the most important part, the game plan. We are officially moving from just being frustrated to actually doing something about it. Think of this as your regulatory roadmap, a step-by-step guide for investors to finally take action together. It all really boils down to 4 clear moves. Number 1, you're going to gather all your evidence, but as a group. 2, you file a formal complaint with the RoC to get the ball rolling. 3, if they drag their feet, you escalate it to the MCA. And 4, you launch an all-out effort, applying pressure from every direction you can. Let's break down each one. All right, step 1 is the foundation for everything, your evidence. You need to collect it all, your agreements, your payment receipts, and every single email you have, especially the ones making big promises and the ones giving you flimsy excuses. But here's the key. You have to do this as a group. Combine your stories, add up the total amount of money you've all lost, and in your complaint, you explicitly name-drop the IL&FS and DHFL cases as precedent. A single complaint is easy to ignore. 100 of them with a mountain of evidence, not so much. Okay, evidence is in hand. Time for step 2, filing with the RoC. You're going to head over to the MCA website's complaint portal, and you're going to use some very specific legal language. You're alleging mismanagement under Section 241 and fraud under Section 447 of the Companies Act. You name the company, obviously, and remember, you're filing as a big, unified group to show this isn't just a personal issue, it's a matter of public interest. The whole point is to get an official inspection started. Now, a quick but really important heads up. Government wheels can turn slowly, so don't get discouraged if you file and then crickets. The system is actually built for this. If a month or 2 goes by and you've heard nothing meaningful from the RoC, you don't just sit and wait. That's your cue. It's time to take it to the next level. And that's step 3. You go straight to the top, to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Here, you're going to formally invoke Section 212. That's the legal trigger to request an investigation by the SFIO, the serious fraud guys. You have to stress that this is urgent, that there's a real risk the company could just go insolvent, and all your money could be gone forever. And here's a pro tip. Copy SEBI, the market regulator, on everything. It just creates pressure from another powerful direction. So going through the MCA is your main highway to justice. But we're not going to put all our eggs in one basket. To really boost your chances, there are other roads you can and should be taking at the exact same time. It's all about building a massive pressure campaign. And this is the final step, step 4, the multi-front effort. While your MCA complaint is working its way through the system, you can also file a case with the NCLT for mismanagement. You can lodge a separate complaint with SEBI. You can file a criminal FIR with the police. And you can start sharing your stories, anonymously of course, with the media. See what we're doing here? Each one of these actions creates another fire that the company and the regulators have to deal with. It makes your main complaint simply impossible to ignore. Okay, so following this roadmap really does give you the best possible shot at getting this sorted. But let's be real for a minute. It's super important to know what you're getting into. So let's talk about timelines, the risks, and what winning might actually look like. So what can you expect? Well, you should probably hear something from the RoC within 1 to 3 months. If you get the green light for an SFIO probe, that whole process could take 6 months to a year just to really get going. But here's the most important thing to understand. Often, just the pressure of a serious investigation is enough. It can push the company to the negotiating table or force them to start selling things off to pay you back, long before the investigation is even finished. So as we wrap this all up, let's just remember what's going to make or break your case. It really comes down to these 4 things. 1, rock-solid evidence. 2, a big, united group that refuses to be divided. 3, framing this whole thing as a public interest issue, not just a personal problem. And 4, persistence. You just have to be relentless. This is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint. But with a good plan, it's a race you can actually win. And I'll just leave you with this one final thought. Look, when you're up against a big company and a slow system, it is so easy to feel hopeless. But what cases like IL&FS and DHFL prove is that when people band together, when they build their case, and when they push every single button available to them, they can force the system to pay attention. Which really makes you wonder, right? In a world like this, is that kind of collective action the only real superpower an investor has left?